our next chapter, which is industry and infrastructure. As always, I would like to thank Anand for his sincere efforts in getting this through. Yes, we've got a fairly wide sector of industries and the infrastructure piece of it at this point in time with respect to that industry. So, as we know, industry and infrastructure nexus is extremely relevant for businesses to survive and thrive in this country. Industry plays a decisive role, and most of the data which we currently have is from the Central Statistics Office, and which says that the growth of industry real gross value added was at 6.9% for the year 18-19, as compared to 5.9 the earlier year. Now look at it, friends. We've seen that mining and quarrying has come down last year. Manufacturing has marginally gone up, but yes, still lower than what it was in 16-17. Electricity, gas, water, and supply and utilities, serious concern. We have down from 10% growth rate to 7%. Construction has moved up to 8.7, and it's actually surprising because the real estate industry at this point in time was in serious issue. But of course, the infrastructure construction is again big as we speak. Overall industrial growth has pegged at about 6.9% at this point in time, and the share what we say in total gross value added is about 29.6. IIP, so this is something which you would have seen in the media as well, the IIP growth rates. So IIP growth rates again in mining is abysmally low, thanks to muted commodity prices and regulatory issues. Manufacturing we saw earlier. So I'm sorry. The industrial growth rate in terms of IIP, I was just 3.6% in 18-19 as compared to 4.4%. The primary goods and consumer durables have registered positive growth. The capital registered a very, very capital goods sector, which is extremely important for long-term growth and prosperity, has had a very, very marginal growth of 2.8%. Overall investment, as indicated by the real gross fixed capital formation, has increased by 10%, but we still do not see much of action at this point in time. Most of the private sector currently have stayed away from investments for the current year, or just keeping things muted at this point in time. The core industries, 8 core industries, which is coal, crude oil, natural gas, refinery products, fertilizers, steel, cement, electricity. So you would see the overall growth is roughly about 4.3%. They come, and the total weightage of these 8 core industries about 40.3% in the IIP index at this point in time. Next, credit flows. Just a sec, friends. Just a sec. Yes. So the flow of credit, which is considered to be the lifeline of finance, these industries have also marginally grown. I would see that for mining and quarrying, it has been a percentage. Textile, it's been negative. Petrol, it's been negative. Basic metal and metal products have been negative. Whereas for other industries like chemicals, glass, and engineering industries, cement, things have moved up. Construction, things have moved up. Infrastructure have moved up positively. So there, it's been effectively a mixed bag as far as the credit flow to the industrial sector is concerned. Some of the initiatives which the government has taken is the ease of doing index, where they have moved up significantly from 130 to 77 in the last 3 years. That is expected to have a positive impact in the long run. And you would also see a serious number of startups have been recognized, and a lot of concessions, fiscal and regulatory concessions, have been provided for startups. FDI, we've seen at this point in time, total FDI flows were $44.3 billion, more or less similar to what was there in the earlier years. And nearly 70% has come from 5 countries: Singapore, Mauritius, Netherlands, Japan, and UK. Now, sector-wise issues and their performance. Steel, India is second largest producer and we just crossed Japan with a global share of 6%. Some of the key challenges are capacity expansion, and the demand for steel is bound to grow with economic growth and growth in investments in infrastructure space. High grade and value added steel are used in power defense and which is currently imported. So India is looking at substituting those. Difficulties in acquiring mining lease and high dependency on import of coking coal add to the cost of steel production. Again, logistics cost is also one of the major constraints. Gems and jewelry, we saw they were one of the largest, one of the largest exported items from India. A domestic council for gems and jewelry was initiated early this year, sorry. Leather and footwear industry again is a highly labor intensive, so we do need them in this era of muted employment. We are second largest exporter of leather garments and fifth largest in terms of leather goods. The global demand for footwear is moving more towards non-leather, while Indian tax policies favor leather footwear production. That's an anomaly because with the fact that globally there is this concern over ethical treatment of animals and stuff, this industry is likely to face some stiff resistance going forward. India faces high tariffs in partner countries for leather goods and non-leather footwear, so that needs to be bilaterally negotiated and agreed. The MSME again is one of the largest employers at this point in time. Government is committed to providing various incentives, including the SBI's limit of 1 crore within 59 minutes through online portal. So these are some of the initiatives which government has taken across sectors. But the ground result in terms of growth is yet to happen because some of these are longer term initiatives which will certainly take some more time. Infrastructure is considered as the overhead capital or the overhead capital of any economy. The correlation of investments in road, rail, and airport infrastructure GDP is as high as 0.9, indicating that there's a very, very strong correlation between. So, higher we invest, faster the growth in GDP. India spends 7 to 8% of GDP on infrastructure, which translates to an annual expenditure of close to $200 billion. With the aim of investing, the National Investment Infrastructure Fund has created with the capital approximately of 400 billion to provide investment opportunities to commercially viable projects. A new credit rating system for infrastructure projects based on expected loss approach has also been introduced to attract foreign and risk capital. Roads, friends, this is a very, very interesting statistic which as citizens of this country we are expected to have. Roads are the dominant mode and accounts for 3.14% of the GVA, and GVA is gross value added, and 69 to 90% of the country's wide freight and passenger traffic. India has a road network of about 58.98 lakh kilometers, it's almost 60 lakh kilometers. And this is as far as 2.5 years old back statistic, with rural roads of about 70.65 and national highways of only 1.94%. The Ministry of Road Transport has been making constant efforts to expand and upgrade the network of national highways in the country. As a result, the road construction grew at 30 kilometers a day in 1819 as compared to 12 kilometers in 1415. Central Road Fund, which is a major source of budgetary support for the highway sector, was also amended and replaced by Central Road and Infrastructure Fund. So, total investment in roads are currently at about 3.3 lakh crores for the last year, where private sector was extremely minimal. Budgetary support was also marginal, so which is about 12-13%. The balance is extra budgetary resources, internal and extra budgetary resources. Railway sector, friends, again, tremendous progress, and we've had a zero collision year. Train collisions has come down to zero in 1819. Indian Railways has initiated a major electrification program for electrifying 100% of broad gauge. This would reduce nation's dependency on imported diesel oil. Indian Railways has witnessed commendable progress, with focus being on efficiency and safety and quality of service. Civil aviation, again, another interesting area, friends, where we've grown by 14% as far as passenger traffic and 12% with freight. The UDAN scheme, of which 719 routes have been awarded, 182 are operational. Phenomenal scheme. Practically has had tremendous accessibility. Currently, connectivity has been provided to more than 22 states and union territories. Once the remaining routes are also operational, Udaan will have 1 crore seats annually to 21 states, and 21 states would have more than 3 operational airports. And very good double-digit air cargo growth of 12.1%, which was achieved, and total weight of cargo handled is about 3.6 million metric tons. Intent is to make air transport affordable and cost-effective. So this is the growth in air cargo, friends, from 1.667. We have now grown to 3.6 million metric ton at this point in time, and the Indian rail air network has also significantly moved on. Ships, again, one of the India having one of the largest coastlines in the world. India had a fleet strength of 1,405 ships with a dead weight of 19.2 million dry weight tonnage, including Indian-controlled tonnage, with Shipping Corporation of India having the largest share of 30%. The port sector development is very crucial. For development, ports handle about 90% of exempt cargo by volume and 70% by value. As per the performance and benchmarking index published by Logistics Data Bank, India is a top performing category, and Gateway Terminals India is a top performing category, and International Container Transshipment Terminal in Kochi is in the lowest performing category. India's first inland waterway multimodal terminal (MMT) at Varanasi was inaugurated in 18 by the Prime Minister, and the first container consignment on Ganga, which sailed from Kolkata, was received at Varanasi on the same day. So, with such huge potential to increase clean traffic, so shipping as well as inland waterways is poised for double-digit growth at least for the next decade. Telecom, as we speak, the total subscription stood at 118.34, and of which 51.4 was in rural and 66 in urban. This has moved up from 93 to 118 years. So effectively, almost 85% of our population is today covered, at least in terms of number of connections. The private sector dominated overall connection, the share of 88.72, and the share of public sector, which is your BSNL, VSNL, and MTNL, is about 11.2% at this point in time. India's mobile economy, again, one of the biggest success stories of the country. The vital mobile ecosystem also supported 32 million jobs, and capital to the tune of $50 billion has been invested. 5G is expected anytime. The FDI equity touched about 2.67, which is more than double than than about 3 years back. Telecom Commission was set up with administrative and financial powers to deal with various aspects of telecommunication, including dispute management. Petroleum and natural gas, friends, the monthly crude oil production, which is in so the refinery production in terms of crude oil during 18-19 was 257 million tons, which was 2.2% odd higher than the earlier years. We have 23 refineries in the country, 18 public sector and 2 joint venture and 3 in the private sector. The Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas has undertaken a series of new reforms to streamline and make this sector a lot more profitable than what it currently is. Power sector, as we saw, thermal, the coal-based power sector is on the highest. They contribute about 63.5%. Hydroelectric, using dams, contribute about 12.7%. Renewable energy and the remaining contributes about 21.8%, and nuclear is about 1.9%. In terms of ownership, private sector currently owns nearly half, 46%. Central government is 24%, and state is 29% in terms of generation ownership. Housing, one of the fastest growing sectors, nearly 37 crore Indians at this point in time, they live in urban areas, and that's projected to go to 60 crores, which is almost half the population by the next 10-12 years. The urbanization has been characterized by increase in the number of large cities, although India may be said to be in the midst of transition from predominantly rural to quasi-urban. One of the important concerns in the real estate sector is a legal battle. RERA was introduced to address some issues, but still we are a decent distance from a very transparent real estate system. Smart Cities was launched in 2015 with the 5-year objective of promoting cities integrated and very safe and smart cities fully connected. The initiatives was area based, and the financial innovation is built in the design of the program. The distribution of funding was between the state and center and public-private model, and the total effective investment of the scheme initially was about 95,000 crores. Significant prospect and progress has been made in implementation of control centers, smart roads, smart water, solar rooftops, and vibrant public spaces. And this is still, we would say, in India, it's still in concept stage. PPP was one of the models which was initially very successful. A lot of private participants picked up the model, but however, there are several issues in terms of leveraged balance sheet, aggressive bidding, making it difficult for to mobilize. And now the government has initiated what is called as a hybrid PPP mechanism to keep the private participation in this sector vibrant. So, where we are in a world to maintain growth momentum, India has developed its vision for Industry 4.0 and next generation in infrastructure. It encompasses automation industrial sectors, whereas next generation infrastructure brings physical infrastructure and technology like IoT, automation. For smooth and fast traveling, India needs adequate and timely investment in quality infra. Along with physical infrastructure, provision of social infrastructure is also equally important, and India's emphasis on ancillary options like sports and extracurricular infrastructure is something very, very relevant. I guess most of the policy makers at this point in time are speaking in this tone. So these were some of our thoughts, friends, on this subject. And